So we're back, and I wanted to talk to you about the bikes, because the 250cc and the 450cc, now are those completely different classes as well, or how do you, what's the differentiation besides one being a more powerful bike?
Yeah, they're the same size as far as height and wheel size, wheel diameter. The motor is more powerful on a 450, and the 250 is a smaller engine. Like I was saying, locally, I'll race both classes. That way I'm not sitting at a local motocross race. I'm not sitting around all day waiting for one class to come up. As I was saying earlier, there's a lot of classes. And it's also a way for me to make more money racing. And I'll ride both classes. The 250F, it puts out a lot of power. They're very fast bikes. You usually have to carry a little more speed to get over an obstacle, a jump. 450, you're still going, race speed fast, but you can get out of trouble easier, or you can maybe make a jump that you couldn't make on the 250F.
So is everybody racing, like if you're racing on a 250, everybody else is racing on a 250 as well, right?
They do have rules that, you can't have a bigger engine size. And some people try to break the rules, right? I mean, that happens. And some people build their 250 into maybe a 280 or something like that. But they usually have a breakdown, of the bikes if somebody is suspected of cheating. And
how do they determine that? How do they find out?
Oh, I mean, there's just a math to it. They do bore stroke, and they'll pull off a cylinder and see, if they've gone to a bigger piston size. And I've actually never been in that situation, so I've never been ripped down, and I don't, but
plan to.
Yeah, it's what happens though. But yeah, 250s and the 450s, they're very, very competitive motorcycles, and that on a national level, the top motocross. Those guys just race one class. So they'll choose to race the 250 for a season or the 450 for a season.
Okay.
And those motos are longer motos on the national scene, like usually 35 minutes, and you'll do 2 of them. And there's no amateur classes in there like I was talking about, the women, the 80s and stuff. It's just focused just on the big pro class.
Now, are there many riders like you that do the 250 and the 450? Or is that kind of unique?
The races around the Northwest, there's about 30 guys that have been showing up lately, and most of them do both. It's a way to get more track time, more money, and stay sharp at your game.
So how do you actually, you say more money, how do you make the money?
Yeah, so your entry fee goes into the pot.
Right.
And they pay it back, like 100% payback is usually a pretty standard.
Really?
And then it'll pay back, say, 33% of the riders. So if there's 30 guys, it pays back, pretty good, and it's obviously you want to win.
Sure.
So it's basically a fight with a lot of times your friends, and it's good sportsmanship, but that's how you go after it, yeah.
What about the sponsorships? How do those come into play? How do you get those, and what do they pay? Yeah,
obviously with our economy right now, things are pretty tight. It's a tough go, but usually it's offsetting your, if you have to buy the product and stuff, it cuts into what your profit's going to be. So a lot of times, especially with things nowadays, you're just getting gear or parts for your bike and stuff like that. There is, the more you kind of progress in your pro career, money coming into play.
Okay.
Where I'm at, it's very rare that I get paid to run a sponsor's product. It's more just free product, and it just offsets my costs racing.
Okay. So that way you can keep more from the pot
in
your pocket.
Yep.
Okay. How many races are you doing, and what time are you doing these? Always in the summer? Where at?
The sport is year round.
Okay.
In the winters, we usually end up in arenas. Sometimes it's a muddy race, but it does slow down a little bit in the winter, but it goes year round. And I race every chance I get. It's what I love to do. It makes me happy. But in the summer, it definitely ramps up.
All right. So where are these races taking place generally? Like Portland?
There's
LA?
quite a few races in Portland. I do race a lot nationally and do a lot of traveling. But like this time of year, there's a really good motocross series that just started up. And since it's really rainy in Portland right now, they find venues up in eastern Washington and stuff like that. And they try to get into more of the desert areas to get drier conditions.
Drier conditions, right.
But it bounces around.
Okay. Now, there's a track, I think it's called Eddyville.
Yeah.
Up by Goldendale.
Yeah, just real close to here.
Is that one of the ones you race on?
Yeah, they do. That's more of the longer races up
right.
there. It's not the shorter motocross races. And they have a great track up there. There's actually Eddyville and Starvation Ridge up there, and they do at Starvation Ridge. They're real close together, owned by the same guy. They do a 24-hour race, and it's kind of what makes the Northwest unique. There's not too many places that do a 24-hour race. And
what does that consist
24 hours.
You're usually on the bike, basically,
You
for
can race it
24 hours?
solo, or you can have a team put together. I think they restrict it to like a 4-man team, and you only can race one bike. And so it's a very interesting kind of racing.
Really? And you've done that?
Yeah, I've done it a few times.
Yeah.
It's a good race.
Do you enjoy it?
Oh, absolutely. It's like the more time I can spend on my bike, the better. So
now, on a race like that, which would seem like it'd be very taxing and exhausting, is there more money at stake? Or?
There's actually, for some races, there's actually no money back, and that one I think there's a little bit of a payback. It's been a few years since I've done it, but it's more for the passion of the sport. Some of these events, so you got to pick and choose what you do.
Yeah. So the passion of the sport. I mean, because I talk to people who love doing what they used to do as a hobby, and then they took it to the next level and made it a business. Yeah. And now it's like, I have to do it, regardless of whether it sounds fun or whatever. I have to do it to make a living. Do you still enjoy riding just as much as you always have, or are there days where you're like, I just don't feel like doing this?
Yeah. I think everybody gets there. Even if somebody loves their job, they have days, and it's just not a fun thing. I work really hard to make it fun, and I always try to think back to why I'm doing this, because I really like it, and that just works out really well for me. I mean, if I know that I love my bike and I want to be on my bike, I just try to stay positive. It's always a good experience. But yes, there is times when you're like,
there's those days.
Yeah. Bad days happen.
Right. All right. Well, we'll keep talking about this. We'll take another quick break, and we'll be right back.
Up next.
During the summer months, it gets pretty busy and a lot of time on the road. But yeah, I'm around and get to enjoy the Columbia River Gorge for sure.